right, so we're going to be talking about three pretty remarkable Irish women today,
Yes,
all of whom have left a lasting mark on both the history and culture of Ireland.
exactly.
We're going to be talking about Queen Maeve,
Mm-hmm.
Molly Malone, and Grace O'Malley,
Yeah.
and each one of them is known for very different things. Maeve, obviously, for her battlefield courage.
Absolutely.
Molly Malone is like this beloved symbol of Dublin.
Yes.
And Grace O'Malley is known for her political and negotiating skills and her resilience.
Toughness. Yeah.
Oh,
Let's start with Queen Maeve.
okay.
So she was an ancient Irish queen.
Wow, an ancient Irish
I
queen.
know. She comes from the Iron Age, and her kingdom was in what we now know as County Sligo.
Okay.
What's interesting about Maeve is that she is a really good example of the powerful but also complex figure of the female leader in early Irish mythology.
She's like a mythological figure.
She is. She's often talked about in those terms.
I mean, it's easy to see why she's got this reputation as the greatest warrior queen of ancient Ireland.
Absolutely.
And that her exploits are detailed in the Tain Bo Coinge.
It's a really important text.
What kind of society produces a figure like that?
It's interesting to think about, isn't it? You know, she was revered as this protector, but she was also a force to be reckoned with. I mean, her ambition was to unify all of Ireland under her rule.
Wow.
So you have that duality. You have the powerful protector, but also the ambitious conqueror.
Yeah, I can see how that would be a fascinating subject for people to look at.
Yeah, absolutely.
And she's still talked about to this day.
Yeah.
You know,
Constantly.
her name comes up in stories, songs, folklore. It's clear she's got a hold on the Irish imagination.
She really has, yeah.
What do you think it is about her leadership that made her so memorable?
Well, I think it's a couple of things, really. She had extraordinary courage,
Right.
obviously, as a warrior queen, but she was also a brilliant strategist in battle, always looking for a new angle, a way to get one over on her opponents. And the Ulster Cycle stories really paint her as this kind of unstoppable force on the battlefield.
Interesting.
So, yeah, a lot of people, I think, are drawn to that.
It is interesting, though, because alongside this warrior queen persona, there are also accounts of her love of beauty and peace.
Right.
So she's not just a one-dimensional war queen. She's got different sides to her.
Exactly. She's a fully rounded figure.
Yeah.
And I think her treatment of her subjects really shows that, I mean, she was known to be generous and hospitable to people who were loyal to her,
Okay.
but completely ruthless to her enemies.
So a very, like, pragmatic
Yeah,
approach.
absolutely. Realpolitik in action.
Yeah.
So a real figure of her times, I think.
It seems that her legacy is one that continues to inspire people. She's a really strong example of strength and ambition for a woman.
Absolutely, yeah, a really powerful figure.
From ancient Irish history.
Yeah. Shall we move on to a slightly different icon?
Sure.
Molly Malone.
Okay.
Now, Molly Malone, she's a character from a traditional Irish ballad, and she's become so closely associated with the life of Dublin.
Okay.
I mean, it's interesting how a fictional character can become so important to a place.
I think the ballad itself tells quite a sad story.
It does, yeah.
You know, she's this beautiful young woman selling shellfish on the streets of Dublin.
Yeah.
Dies young from a fever and is buried in St. James's Cemetery. It's quite simple, but it's clearly resonated with a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And despite the fact that she's probably a fictional character,
Probably.
Molly Malone has become an unofficial mascot for Dublin.
She really has.
And people will know that statue of her.
Absolutely. It's a real focal point
Yeah.
for tourists and locals.
And that statue is quite often dressed up for different events,
Oh, yeah.
like St. Patrick's Day.
Of course.
I think even the Guinness Dublin literary pub crawl.
I think you're right.
It's quite nice how they keep her memory alive in that kind of lighthearted way.
Yeah, and I think the fact that there are so many pubs in Dublin named after her shows how important she is to the city's identity. She's part of the furniture almost.
So she's this lasting symbol of Dublin's history and culture.
I think so.
And it is fascinating how a song can elevate a character to that kind of iconic status.
Absolutely.
What do you think it is about Molly Malone that really captures the essence of Dublin?
Well, I think the song itself is a big part of it. It's a reminder of the Irish people's good humor,
Okay.
which I think everyone knows about. It's a song that everybody knows, and it instantly puts you in a good mood.
Yeah, I can see that.
The lyrics also paint this picture of the working class of Dublin as hardworking and industrious, but also good-hearted.
Okay.
So you get a real sense of the people of the city from it.
Yeah, I've always loved those opening lines. you know.
Yeah.
In Dublin's fair city, where the girls are so pretty. I first set my eyes on sweet Molly Maloney. She wheeled her wheelbarrow through streets broad and narrow,
Oh.
crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive. Oh, it really paints a picture of old Dublin in your mind.
Doesn't it? It's
Yeah.
so evocative. And even today, Molly Malone is a really important part of the city's identity,
Okay.
a real blend of its past and its spirit.
Yeah, so anyone visiting Dublin, keep an eye out for that statue. It's a real connection to the city's past and the attitude of the people.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's more than just a statue.
Okay, so finally,
Yes.
we're going to talk about Grace O'Malley,
Okay.
or Grain ní Mahal.
Yes.
And she's another very powerful figure in Irish history.
Yeah, absolutely. A slightly different take on female leadership.
Okay.
So Grace O'Malley was an Irish chieftain from the 16th century,
Okay.
and she's considered one of the most influential women in the history of Ireland.
Really?
Yeah, and it's her naval power that really makes her stand out.
Okay.
She was famous for leading a fleet of ships to defend her land from English invasion.
Wow.
And for a woman of her time, that was really unusual.
It must have taken some doing.
It must have, yeah. It
Yeah.
showed real courage and strategic thinking.
And it wasn't just military leadership, was it?
No,
She was also really good at negotiating.
very good.
And that allowed her to get some pretty favorable agreements with the English crown.
She was a tough woman to beat.
That's a really interesting set of strengths.
It is, isn't it? So she had over 30 ships.
Wow. The 30s?
And she was a skilled sailor herself.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. She would often lead her fleets into battle.
Wow.
And her influence was so great that she was actually granted an audience with Queen Elizabeth I in 1593.
Really?
Yeah, a really key moment in history.
And in that meeting, she managed to negotiate the release of some of her clan members that had been captured by the English.
She did.
I mean, that just goes to show how determined she was.
Yes.
And how much respect she commanded.
Absolutely.
Even from her enemies.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing that various organizations like the National Maritime Museum in Galway,
Yes.
UNESCO, and even the Irish Navy
Wow.
work to keep her memory alive as such an important leader.
Yeah, they're making sure that she's not forgotten.
I think it's really important that those institutions recognize and promote the stories of these women.
They are inspirational figures.
All three of them,
Yeah.
in their different ways, have really made their mark on Irish culture and history.
They've really shaped the country, haven't they?
Yeah, Queen Maeve with her courage on the battlefield,
Mm-hmm.
Molly Malone and her enduring symbolic charm, and then Grace O'Malley and her resilience.
I think they show the strength of Irish women throughout history.
Yeah, they're amazing examples of determination and what women can achieve.
Yeah, absolutely.
So whether you have Irish heritage or you just love stories about amazing people, I think you should look into the lives of these women,
I agree, they're fascinating.
because their stories will give you a much richer understanding of Ireland's past and its spirit.
They're a great lens through which to view different periods of Irish history.
Yeah.
And the amazing women who shaped it.
And if you want to learn even more about the spirit of Ireland, why don't you join the thousands of others who subscribe to our Love Ireland newsletter?